From my years in Chinese medicine, there are certain principles that I come back to over and over again that are principles that apply to life in a way that's much greater than just the medicine of Chinese medicine, which is a truly rich and limitless art and study. But some of these principles have to do with stuck chi, stuck energy. And to circle back to earlier in the talk, I was talking about some people who get frustrated, who have been telling me lately, they're frustrated that this isn't changing or this isn't happening, or people aren't responding in ways that they would want them to, or acting in ways they'd want them to. And to tell you the truth, that's always going to be. It's always going to be that way. That we're not going to be in favor of how some things are going or how some people are acting. To contemplate this notion of flow and being in harmony with what is not to all of a sudden, be completely in support of everything that's going on and what everyone's doing. Far from it. But there can be a way that when one is experiencing, let's say, frustration with changes that are occurring, things that are happening, or things that aren't happening and aren't changing, there feels like the circumstances of life are not in flow, they're not in harmony. And then often that's mirrored inside of us, and there's a kind of stuck or interruption of the flow of chi in our own energetics. And that can be the very definition, and at least on the level of Chinese medicine, of frustration, is it's stuck chi that's trying to move. And for those of you familiar with me applying the principles of Chinese medicine to emotions, there'll be no surprise for me to say that when chi is stuck, and it's not moving freely, and it's become stagnant, and that stuck or stagnant chi is still living energy, and energy is by its nature moves, right? And so that stuck chi either kind of remains stuck, but it's not completely static. It's alive with energy that's moving, and that energy is it's its nature to flow. And so it either starts to turn in on itself and cause us to experience emotions like depression, despondency, despair, or that stuck energy starts to move outward or upward, and it can feel more like frustration, irritability, anger, upset, rage. And so then it becomes more toward the explosive side versus the imploding side. So it's just a really good thing to recognize, because sometimes those energetics are occurring in our body, and then the mind will start to overlay narratives on that. And I especially noticed that for myself during menopause, or just before entering menopause. And I've talked to other women about this, that sometimes there's a kind of stuck energy when the hormones are out of balance. They're not humming along with the same levels that they were before. Those levels are declining. And it's like a river that has waters that are depleting, if that's the right word. They're lowering. And as there's less and less water, it may tend to stagnate as it chugs along. And so a system that's used to a lot of things flowing in at all the hormone levels, when those begin to drop, a person can feel a lot more changes in their energy and their emotions. And sometimes they become more irritable or more upset or angry, or They start to maybe become more depressed or sad, or something the energy is just sort of moving in one place. They might feel more anxious or have more anxiety. And so it can be interesting. I especially noticed in menopause that those energies that are associated with certain emotions or feel and register as certain emotions can then activate the mind, and the mind can seek for storylines, for reasons that you're feeling that way, for narratives. And like in my younger years, I always thought that all my thoughts caused my emotions. But then in these menopausal years, I really saw more clearly, oh wow, thoughts and storylines and narratives are sometimes sought out by the thinking mind that's trying to give it a narrative or a context for a feeling that originates prior to thought, for like a biological energetic that presents prior to thought. And so it's interesting, these paradoxes. Sometimes it appears that our thinking, when it gets going, generates certain emotions. And sometimes certain emotions generate thinking. And it's a good thing to know, especially as spiritual practitioners who are becoming more conscious of who and what they are, who and what you are. That's not defined by thought, that's not defined by emotion. When your spiritual path is truly interested in what you are essentially, that may have experiences of thought and emotion, that may express in ways that evoke certain emotions, but essentially is prior to and more essential than thoughts or feelings or emotions.